Streamlined steam engines are an icon for many railways. Not only were they stylish, but they also headed fast, important express services and were often the flagship engines for many companies looking to impress passengers. Out of all of these streamlined engines, however, one stands out among the rest as not only a massive mechanical marvel, but also because it was double-ended. In the 1930s, France began to heavily invest in their colony in Algeria, looking to improve much of their established infrastructure, including the railways. The line between Algiers and Oran was one such line in need of help as it traversed the Atlas Mountains, resulting in many sharp bends and steep grades of up to 1 in 38 along the route. Express trains had to be double-headed in order to make the journey, and the tight bends meant that they couldn't just use a bigger engine without risking it derailing. What they needed was a locomotive that had the power of 2 engines to tackle the grades while also being flexible enough to negotiate the bends. And soon, they found it. While not the most popular design at first, the Garratt engines built by Bayer Peacock & Company had become quite popular on many railways in Africa, proving to not only be powerful but also flexible and quick when they needed to be, with some clocking speeds of up to 90 km an hour. They were primarily used as goods engines by many railways, but it wasn't uncommon for them to pull heavier passenger services too. Deciding that a Garratt was exactly what they needed, a prototype was ordered from Société Franco-Belge in northern France, who were associates of Bayer Peacock & Company. The engine was designed to have a 462/264 wheel arrangement, essentially being 2 Pacific engines in one, and in 1932 the prototype was completed. This monstrous machine, given the class of 231-132 AT, was equipped with 4 490mm cylinders, 1,800mm driving wheels, a mechanical stoker, Walschaerts valve gear, was around 27 meters long and weighed a whopping 195 metric tons. It was trialled in France before being sent to Algeria, with many officials being impressed by both the size and performance of the machine. In Algeria, it was put to the test on the lines between Algiers and Oran, where it really got its chance to shine. Where before, 2 engines would struggle to haul an express through the mountains, only 1 Garratt was needed, and despite the Garratt's reputation as heavy freight engines, it still managed to maintain express speeds. After modifying and fine-tuning the engine, an additional 29 were ordered and built between 1936 and 1941, with the newer engines, classed as 231/132 BTs, being even bigger at 29.37 meters long and weighing 211 metric tons. The Walschaerts valve gear was replaced with Cossart valve gear, this uniquely being operated electrically instead of manually. Not only were they powerful, but pretty too, with the new engines having both their front and rear ends fitted with streamlined cases to reflect their nature as modern, up-to-date express engines. Once these engines came into service, they proved to be more than capable of hauling trains between Algiers and Oran alone, averaging speeds of 100 km an hour. On occasion, they were even known to run at 130 km an hour, the fastest speed ever set by a Garratt locomotive. This impressive performance led to them occasionally working expresses between Algiers and Constantine too, it being noted that they were able to shave 2 hours off the journey compared to the engines that usually ran the line, all while hauling a heavier train. These streamlined, double-ended monsters proved themselves to be unmatched express performers, and were possibly some of the most powerful express steam engines in the world. However, they still had their shortcomings. The Cossart valve gear was complex to maintain, with the reversing mechanism being a frequent source of grief for both drivers and repair crews alike. The size also proved to be somewhat of an issue, requiring some engine sheds and turntables be extended in order to accommodate their extreme length. On top of that, the quality of the water used in the engine's boilers was poor, which, combined with the lack of boiler maintenance, led to many of them steaming poorly later on in life. What really brought about the end of these engines, however, was the outbreak of the Second World War. Their frequent use on heavy passenger services, combined with the lack of maintenance they received thanks to the war, caused them to become worn out much quicker. As a result, by the end of the war, the engines were in a very poor state and in dire need of extensive repairs. In 1951, the decision was made to electrify many of Algeria's railway lines and introduce diesel power in the meantime. This, combined with Algeria starting to fight for independence, left the Garratts at the bottom of the priority list, and by the end of 1951, all of them were scrapped. When most rail fans think of streamlined engines, they often tend to think of your typical Gresley A4s or the New York Central Hudsons. But despite their maintenance-heavy nature and relatively short working life, I think you'll agree that their speed, power, and striking appearance makes the 231/132 BTs certainly worth remembering too. Subscribe for more.